Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Hello, hello. Hi, Rob. I'm going to wait a little bit for people to get in as they're going to be getting in, and then we will get started. Okay, let's see people who want to join this call. All right, I'll probably just wait one more minute and then I will get started. So I'm looking forward to this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start recording so that the people who aren't here can get a recording once it's done. Oh, it's already recording. Okay, fantastic. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me live. For those who are here live, everybody I think is muted. So please do stay muted unless you want to jump in and ask a question. Then you can feel free to raise your hand and we can chat. You can keep your cameras off if you want, but if you want to turn them on and I can see a face, that's also fine. Happy to see a friendly face. I think I've spoken to everybody here on this call a few times before, so it's gonna be nice and intimate for this live call. I'm really excited to talk about today. I have to say, this has been a very challenging webinar to present because every time I started adding things in here, new things popped up. So trying to summarize all of the things that have been identified or updated or changed has been a real challenge to catch up with, but that was kind of the point of putting this together, is how do we actually catch up with everything that's happening at Google and beyond. More has changed in the last 3 months than in all of 2024. So it's a bit of a whirlwind to try to keep up with it. And I have found some interesting things here. There is quite a large focus on Google in this webinar, and it is completely SEO focused. I hope that was clear in the title and the description, and you guys get what you signed up for. So let me see, where are my notes? Here we go. So I'm hoping that you're going to get a clear understanding of the recent major shifts. You're going to get some key insights on what has been going on, what is happening with other websites. And then at the end, we're going to summarize with what I think are some key takeaways. But I think there's actually going to be a lot of room for conversation here. Everybody's here because they're in a bit of a similar boat. So I think we could also get a bit of a conversation going between all of us and see, here's what I've seen, here's what I've seen. So a little bit about me. My name is Maeva Cifuentes. I think I know so far almost everybody on this call, so I don't need to do too much of an intro, but I'll still do one for those who are watching the recording. I'm the founder of Flying Cat. We are a small hybrid team of about 25 people distributed around the world, a mix of in-house and freelancers. We are an SEO and content agency. We specialize in SaaS companies for the most part. We've worked with companies like ActiveCampaign, Hotjar, Leapsome, and Livestorm. So there's a lot going on in this world right now. What are we looking at here in this chart? This is the SERP volatility chart for the last 30 days. This is what Semrush calls a Google quake. So 9.3 out of 10, that's not normal. And that's just for this last month, which I think most people know there has been a core update happening the last 2 weeks. But if you look at the volatility index for January and for February, they both looked similar to this. They were both very high. So the SERP volatility, this is a little bit higher than February, but the SERP volatility has been very high. And SERP volatility means when the rankings across the board are fluctuating heavily, even daily. So this is, nothing is staying in the same position. So this is the environment that we are operating in right now. So if you've seen traffic drops, ranking spikes, sudden changes in visibility, you are not alone. This is happening across industries, across website sizes. This is telling us that Google is actively reshuffling how it evaluates pages. So this is going to be a lot of different things. A response to the core updates. It has been getting harsher and harsher with its core updates. Could be linked to AI. We're going to dive into all of this today. And we're also seeing a lot of aggressive behavior from Google itself. Google is prioritizing its own content. We have seen it ignoring some instructions from the creator itself, like ignoring canonicals, crawling blocked pages, all of these things because it's desperate to get more content for its own AI purposes. Google has recently invested or committed to investing $75 billion into AI infrastructure, and it needs stuff to crawl because it's already pretty much out of it. Meanwhile, other people are trying to block it from crawling. So with this much movement, the risk isn't just about losing a few positions. Google is redefining what quality looks like across all of the niches. So we really have to pay attention to this. So one of the first big pieces of news I want to share with you. And at any point, if you guys have a question, please just raise your hand. We do have a time for Q&A at the end, and I would love for it to become a conversation as well. I don't think my slides are going to go all the way through the end. So please feel free to raise your hand, and then you can just ask it live. So in January, Google updated its Search Quality Rater guidelines. For those who don't know, the Search Quality Rater guidelines it's a document, a large document, which is now 187 pages. And it is for an actual human. They have a team of human quality raters. They read this document as they go through search results, and they grade the results based on this document to see whether it's high quality or not. So January 11th, Google updated these guidelines, which it hadn't updated since March of last year, and it added 11 new pages, and the word original appeared 1.5 times more than the last version, and a lot in these pages. So there is a larger focus on originality, and it doesn't, actually some of the pages that it added is saying, we don't care if you're using AI or not, but it better be more original than everything else that's on the SERP. They actually say that they expect you to use AI, but the content has to be more original. There's a huge emphasis on effort and originality. That's how they're grading what's good. So the effort that you've put into it. So I think that you can use AI in the content creation, but it has to be highly original. So the updated guidelines clarify that while the use of AI is permitted and they expect you to use it, the resulting material must offer unique value. Additionally, there was an event in February where Gary Iles, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, said that originality is something that they're focusing on this year. So it's really, really important that you guys have this as a part of your strategy. This is actually, they're really doubling down on this year. And we can already see that, I believe, from some of the other data that we're about to see right now. So Google search volume is actually 373 times larger than ChatGPT. And this traffic is growing, it's not declining. So this was a study by SparkToro, and they found that Google is not declining. Everybody is saying, or a lot of people are saying that Google traffic is declining. That is false. And the way that people are using ChatGPT and LLMs is complementary to Google searches. They are asking different kinds of questions. They are not replacing their Google searches. They just have a different way to search now. So you've probably heard this narrative that AI tools, especially ChatGPT, are taking over. But we found this stat. We also found ChatGPT processes about 37.5 million search-like queries daily, compared to Google's 14 billion searches. And it is not losing ground. Google's overall search volume has grown by 22%. So AI tools are growing, but they are not currently threatening Google's dominance. Right now, they are a tiny fraction of the market, and traditional Google search remains extremely relevant. It continues to grow. And so this tells us the traffic losses that a lot of people are seeing is not specifically coming from, it's not being taken away from AI. There are other reasons for this. We have seen these huge traffic losses, and they've been analyzed by this SEO community. So we've seen HubSpot lost millions in traffic. G2 lost millions in traffic. Forbes lost millions in traffic. And it's not because of AI traffic. I think that we're all clear on that. I don't know how many of you guys have followed. Can you give me an emoji if you were following these stories? Like a thumbs up. Some of you guys have heard about this. Maybe give me a thumbs down if this is the first you're hearing about it. This is not, okay. So most everybody knows what's been going on with these. And there's been a lot of different analyses, but that traffic has just gone elsewhere. So for example, you can easily see who took the rankings for HubSpot losses. They're all websites that are way more relevant to the topic. So here for AI image generator, for example, it's gone to Canva and images.google. This is another interesting topic that we're going to talk about later, is how Google is taking a lot of the traffic. But we're seeing websites that are a little bit more relevant are taking the traffic. So it's not like the traffic just disappeared. It's just these websites were generic, AI generated. They didn't have enough focus on a topic. So G2, as we know, publishes reviews of about a bunch of different kinds of software, and most of it is programmatically generated. So this has taken a hit because it didn't have a topic focus. Same with HubSpot, and actually its stock has gone up. It's been closing more deals. So it wasn't really that much of a hit on their business because it was all top funnel traffic. So we really want, my takeaway here is you really want to focus your topic and not only not publish about things that aren't about your very specific lane, but actually go back and delete all the stuff that isn't, because I think this is really taking a hit now. So something quite interesting, I've been trying to figure out CTR, and I haven't finished this study yet, but a lot of these articles about CTR, they say 2025 in the title, but I went into the Wayback Machine to see, is this actually like up to date right now? The data hasn't been updated since March 2023, and a lot of the studies that I found haven't been updated in years. Yet everybody's saying that CTR is going down. So I did take a sample. Initially, I took a random sample of 30,000, and then I cut it down to 500. So my sample size is smaller than this one. And I did search volume to traffic. So there are some limitations to the study, but I did find that CTR was up, and there was actually an increase, a higher CTR when the keyword was present in AIOs, in AI overviews. Everybody's familiar with what AI overviews are by now, yes? Will you give me a thumbs up? If you are, it's the AI summary at the top of the SERP. So CTR actually goes up with AI overviews from what I found. I found a few more interesting data points here, which I will be sharing in Q2. But it went up across the board in every position. And even in some positions like 9 and 10, it went really high up when AIOs were present on average. So I found that this was really interesting because it kind of counteracts what everybody's been saying about CTR falling with AIOs. I don't believe that the loss in traffic that people have been seeing is because of CTR. I think we do want to keep trying to find something to blame, but sometimes it's because we just aren't wanting to take the more challenging way. There's always something to blame when the answer is just the hard one. So websites losing traffic, I don't think are victims of declining Google usage or declining Google traffic. Just based on the information that we just saw, Google is gaining traffic, and AI overviews, CTRs, aren't dropping. They increase the amount of traffic you can get. So some things to consider. These websites are not focused enough topic-wise. So if this happened to you, when was the last time you really pruned content? I've been speaking to some people who have over 5,000 pages that they haven't touched in years, that have been receiving zero traffic. Cut those. What is actually going on in your sitemap and your index? Are you crawling pages that are paginated? We'll talk about site architecture a little bit later in this webinar, but also just technical SEO and site architecture in general. Those are possibly getting crawled and also adding to this messiness of what Google is trying to crawl. Maybe you are not focused enough goals-wise. I've been also encountering people who have way too many goals, and here's what's happening. The requirements of being able to compete in Google are going up. It's becoming more difficult. Yet, the pressures for price and effort are going down, or the pressures are going up for that time and money to go down, which makes it not possible or even harder to actually compete with Google. So the ones that are going to win are the ones that are continuing to build their brand, but that can actually spend the time to create content that is original enough to be able to rank. So a lot of these pages are not meeting Google's strict requirements and increasingly strict requirements for expertise, originality, and clarity. Throwing a couple of expert quotes in there is not cutting it. That is not an original piece. And then there's also a lot of technical issues that might be preventing this page from getting indexed, or overall giving the website a look of bad quality. So if you have a lot of pages that are getting crawled, and a lot of them are low quality, thin, paginated pages, right now that is even more important than it ever has been. This is not only preventing that page from getting indexed, but it's preventing your entire domain as being seen as a quality domain. People are trying to scale too hard with AI content, which means you can't make it original and expert like Google wants you to. And I'm saying scale only with AI content. So I love using AI. I'm very much into using AI. I think you absolutely can meet Google's requirements with the use of AI, but you need to add something very original in there. Or they are cutting back on their SEO investment, or they don't have enough authority and brand recognition. I have some data later on as well that tells us how important brand building is. Brand building has been found to be absolutely necessary for SEO, for showing up in LLM responses, and of course for differentiating yourself in a market where everything looks the same. And I think it's just way harder to rank now. So that's kind of the thing. It's not going to be AI. It's not this. It's just more difficult to rank. But Google is also stealing traffic from websites, and we're starting to see this more and more. Google traffic to its own products and pages has been steadily increasing, even when they do not have EEAT, which is experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness in the topics. So you'll see, for example, pages about weight loss and exercise when Google is not an expert in that, which is now ranking, their own page is ranking #1 because they're selling something on there, as well as with a lot of travel websites. They are ranking #1. So they are also training its AI desperately. As I said, they have just invested or committed to investing $75 billion. And this was at the last quarterly call to investors that they said this. But they have been spotted doing anything to try to train its AI, ignoring canonicals, breaking robots.txt, indexing no index pages because they want to feed it into AI overviews. So even when people have said, do not index this page and it won't be indexed on the SERP, it will still appear in AI overviews. So this could possibly be also affecting your technical SEO, which Google will judge as bad. So you have to be really careful about what is even able to get crawled at all, and really clean up your site architecture, because this could become a whole mess here. So it's really important that while Google is looking out for itself, it used to be a good partner to us, and now it's going a little bit rogue. You need to look out for yourself. So build more thought leadership, build more brand content, and just build your brand in general. The March 2025 core update finished rolling out last week on Thursday, on the 27th. Some websites have seen very sharp changes, and the absolute changes across the board are relatively low. This one didn't seem to have as big of an impact as the last year's March core update, which was quite devastating for a lot of different websites and companies. This one seemed to have been relatively calm for most companies, but with still a lot of volatility, as we saw in the first slide. But again, it's pushing originality, EEAT, all of the things that it's been going on and on about. But now with AI, it's a lot better at being able to recognize those things with AI and the combination of the human search quality raters. I'd be interested, if anybody's open to it at the end of this as well, to discuss like what they have seen over the last couple of weeks with the March core update. Across our clients, it hasn't been that huge of an impact, except for one client, which we are identifying what's been going on. But it has been pretty neutral, this one, for the rest. So I'd be interested in discussing and seeing what people have been seeing here. A study on, and by the way, I'm going to send you guys these slides with the links to all of these studies that I'm mentioning. A study on 22,000 LLM responses for top of the funnel queries found that there is a 30 to 65% chance that AI search engines will introduce brand even when a prospect is in the early problem discovery phase. So just for some context here, if you have a BOFU query, bottom of the funnel query on an LLM, and for example, what's the best webinar tool on the market, it's always going to give you a list of brands. And that's what people want to, they want their brand to appear and be cited on an LLM. But generally you're expecting not to see as many brands in the TOEFL queries, but now 30 to 65% chance that you will be seeing a brand in a TOEFL query. So the suggestion is always continue to try to optimize even for TOEFL queries, to have that content, optimize that as well for not only for NLP, but also to include a brand mention. So the suggestion here is product-led, top of the funnel SEO, always try to introduce the brand in a subtle way that it can pick up from here as a solution. So Google is experimenting with AI mode. On March 5th, they launched AI mode as a response to OpenAI's deep research. Some people can currently test it in search labs, and it says that it uses its own core ranking algorithm. So they say, we aim to show an AI-powered response as much as possible, but in cases where we don't have high confidence in helpfulness and quality, this response will be a set of web search results. So it says it will display web search results. So it's part AI overviews and part Gemini chatbot, but it's not exactly either one. So it runs on a search-specific version of Google's Gemini model. So you can ask in-depth, multi-stage questions, and you get long, detailed answers, and it grabs all the information from Google's search index. There is some hope here, because this is scary for some, because AI mode takes up the whole entire SERP. So people can switch between the regular SERP or AI mode, but that makes it more unknown, more uncertainty, what is going to happen. But apparently there is some hope for those who have been testing it. Google's AI mode is reportedly opening up more search real estate. So there have been reports of 500-word AI overviews or AI modes containing up to 60 links, and opportunities for second and third page results to rank. So if this is true, this is a silver lining for us, because there's still an opportunity to get some traffic from those citations. So we'll just kind of have to see where that is going. Has anybody been able to test AI mode yet? Who's on this call? I'd be curious. Nobody? Okay. So another interesting finding, a March study found that published date has a huge impact on CTR. So having both date published and last date published confuses Google's and tanks CTR, because it will take the oldest date. It will always take the oldest date, and it makes then the content look like it's really old. So just choose the published date. Don't add updated date. And just republish on the new date. So this is going to have a bigger impact than schema updates. And you can also add both dates to your schema. So I thought that this was really interesting, because I know that some of my clients have had questions about this, and now we have the data to prove it. So many studies found multiple important stats about AI visibility and SEO. I credit Kevin Indig for this. He did the meta study collecting all of these. So I'm just here sharing with you his research across all of these studies. These are all different studies, and I'm linking to all of them here. And let's just highlight the most interesting stats here. So 71.5% of consumers use ChatGPT for searching, but not as a replacement to Google. Unclear, actually, now that I'm looking at this, whether that means the other 28.5% mean that they're just not using ChatGPT, or they are replacing it with Google. 63% of websites receive at least some traffic from AI sources. So we do know that we want to keep optimizing for these sources, while it's very, very small right now. So only 0.17% of total visits come from AI chatbots, with the highest websites achieving up to 6%. So obviously the other search channels are much higher, but we're only at the beginning. So we want to be thinking about this from now and starting to see how we can optimize it from now. However, It's kind of just the same. It's just good SEO to be able to optimize for these. Good technical SEO. There is a little bit of generative engine optimization and thinking about how to write for NLP, but I think technical brand are more important than anything. 98% of traffic comes from 3 AI chatbots. 98% of AI traffic comes from 3 AI chatbots. ChatGPT is the majority, and then Perplexity, and then Gemini. And I thought this one was super interesting, which was AI referral traffic is higher quality than search engine traffic, traditional search engine traffic. So the average session duration is 10 minutes for AI chatbots versus 8 minutes for Google traffic. So this means somehow the audience is more engaged when they come from AI chatbots. And users from AI chatbots visit the more pages on average compared to how many pages people visit from Google traffic. And then products with low brand awareness are perceived as having higher trust if they have been recommended from ChatGPT, which is quite the way that people buy these days anyway, right? We know that in B2B SaaS, there has been many studies on this by Winter. It was one of them last year that said basically the way B2B buyers buy is first they have a short list. They build their short list, and once they have the short list, then they go through all the verifying, the reading, the studying, blah, blah, blah. But if you're not on the short list to begin with, which means you were top of mind and they've known about you way longer than at the time that they started doing their search, it's very important to get, if you don't make it to that short list, they're most likely not going to move forward with the buy. It's very hard to get on that short list by that time. So that's kind of how people are thinking. So in that B2B case, it's, oh, I've seen it on ChatGPT. Oh, I've heard people talking about it. Oh, I've seen their content on LinkedIn or on Instagram or whatever. So products with low brand awareness can build trust this way by getting recommended. And that is through this practice of GEO, which is a lot of overlap with SEO. So LLM crawlers are less forgiving than Google about JavaScript and client-side rendering. So it's really important that your technical SEO is very clean. Okay, so your XML sitemap is sparkling and you have strong internal linking. And this is not only important just for LLMs. I'm seeing it being even more important than it was before for traditional SEO as well. I feel like technical SEO has been kind of put to the side, and a lot more focus has been placed on link building and content. But I think now is the time to really just make sure that you have a clean situation there, because I think you're going to get hurt if you don't. Brands ranking on page 1 of Google showed a strong correlation with LLM mentions. And then Bing rankings also mattered, but a little less. So ranking on Google is correlated to ranking on LLMs and also Bing. I also saw a stat. I'll share it with you later. Actually, I have that in a later slide. So we are moving away from the keyword and towards the entity. So moving on to the next slide. Before I do that, I have been going through this quite rapidly. Take a little breather. See if there's anything in the chat. Okay, nothing in the chat. So the entity. I believe that in a few years, the volume of any keyword is going to be almost zero, even these very high volume keywords now, because of how people will ask questions. It's going to be the entity, or this has long been called, optimize for the topic, optimize for the intent. And but this is kind of the technical backbone of it, right? So topical authority is the end goal. The entities provide the structure, and vector embeddings power the retrieval and ranking of the most relevant content. So the entities define the topics. Search engine use entity relationships to group content and determine what a site is about. An entity is a defined thing so that Google can connect concepts. It's a concept, basically. So they are distinct concepts, people, places, or things recognized by search engines, often defined in knowledge graphs, and they help search engines they help them understand context beyond just keywords. So a site with very strong topic authority is usually well connected to relevant entities. So it reinforces its relevance to specific topics. And then vector embeddings refine the relevance, so they help us match queries with conceptually similar content, even when the wording is totally different. So vector embeddings are a way that for search engines to represent the words, the phrases, and topics in a multidimensional space, and they actually give them a number. It's funny how they turn concepts into numbers. So they allow the search engines to measure the similarity between different entities and concepts based on the meaning, rather than just exact keyword matches. And so when a site has strong topic authority, its content is going to align with well-defined entity relationships within the search's embedding model. And then the topic authority, which is the most commonly talked about one, is the site's perceived expertise and trustworthiness on a subject. So this is going to come from publishing a lot of content on the same topic and building links to relevant website. And so overall authority. And it determines, search engines will determine this, based on the content depth, link profile, user engagement, historical performance on these kind of terms. And it's strengthened by the comprehensive content, but you really understand what that is through the entities. So this is going to be really, really important, because the keyword is going to go away because people are searching more and more in the long tail. The way people are communicating with the search engines is now already changing, especially as AI mode is going to come. I still personally search one way with Google and one way with LLMs, but I think that's all going to start to blend. And as we start to learn more about the LLMs, that's a black box. We have no way of knowing what kind of things people put in that as searches, especially since sometimes they can be a paragraph or multiple paragraphs long. So we just have to start to recognize the topic or the entity the same way the LLMs are. One thing that I thought was quite interesting is that LLMs provide confidently wrong answers to more than 60% of queries. Perplexity, 37% of their answers are just wrong. Grok 3 is 94% wrong. And then ChatGPT search cites the wrong article 40% of the time. So I thought that this was pretty crazy. These are kind of my assumptions about what that means, that user behavior is going to start to revolve around double checking. So if most of the answers are flawed, then people possibly are going to want to check the direct sites more often. I personally will never share something from ChatGPT without clicking on the link, because I need to know that it was factual and I need to check, and oftentimes it is the wrong link completely. I believe this means structured data and schema is going to matter more, because properly structured content is less prone to misinterpretation by language models. So if your site marks up the content in a way that helps AI parse it, it's going to be easier to get represented accurately. And so this might mean deeper markup for facts, for stats, author profiles, or even building a knowledge graph that LLMs can reference. And then thought leadership is going to rise in importance. So I think when automated tools are saying all of these inaccuracies, people are going to want to hear from human experts with recognized credentials. So SEOs should really be helping their clients or internal teams position their executives and subject matters as public voices, and build brand. And then LLM-driven results are going to erode traditional trust signals. There was a time and place where you could win an argument by saying, I'll Google it. And now I feel like that's getting a little hazy, because a lot of the answers are wrong. Well, especially in LLMs, because now it's kind of switched. Some people are looking at ChatGPT. When LLMs regularly generate incorrect or fabricated data, the trust in all search engines, I think, can decline. So SEOs are going to have to work really hard to become a reliable source of truth. So key takeaways that I have from this, and then we can possibly discuss together, or we can ask some questions. I'd be really interested in seeing what everybody has to say about this. So the first thing I think is really important is to do a full content audit. So if you've been doing SEO for a long time, now is the time to start to prune and try to be a little bit ruthless. So if you have content that is totally outdated and irrelevant, get rid of it, even if it's generating traffic. It's not the kind of traffic you want. You're going to get penalized for that. If you have duplicate or redundant traffic, stronger pages already ranking for similar intent, cut. Very thin or low effort content, or if you have content that's still there that hasn't received traffic or backlinks or engagement, cut it. Just go ruthless, do a big cleanup. Be really careful with redirects because you want to make sure that your technical is clean. So if you use too many 301 redirects when you're doing this, it can negatively impact your site performance. So it can increase server load, slow down the page load times. It can complicate the crawl paths. You really don't want to be doing it this way and relying on it. It should only be a small scale solution. So you basically just want to keep them for the external links that are pointing to your page, but not for anything that's internal. You want to directly replace those links. So update the links directly to point to the actual pages you want it to direct to. If you have a lot of pages, then just prioritize the most authoritative one, and then group the link updates in batches. And then to set up the 301 redirect, just do it from for external links rather than internal ones. So get your technical in order now. This is probably the most important thing, I think, that you should be paying attention to. Clean website architecture is more important than it has ever been. Audit your site, remove low value or redundant content, faceted navigation, auto-generated pages, infinite loops, etc. So I put none of these should be crawlable, but I guess it's a little bit of a nuance. So the ones that definitely should not be crawlable is the auto-generated pages, the infinite loops, tracking parameters, outdated alternate page formats, and then often best not crawlable is usually the faceted navigations. But if you have certain filtered views that have meaningful search volume and some value like red shoes, you can allow those selectively. And then the unnecessary RSS feeds, just if you want to index them for Google News, then you can selectively allow, but generally these shouldn't be crawlable. Use schema markup and use it correctly. Learn about entities, vector embeddings, and then review your sitemap and robots.txt. And then honestly, if your traffic is dropping, I would look here because this might be a big issue. Up your originality. So I think we really need to be more original than what we thought was original enough. So a lot of more how this person solved this problem rather than how to solve this problem. So don't be afraid of having a personality and being a person. Be bolder. So I think this is the time we really need to get more bold. So stop trying to say, oh, I don't want to scare anybody. You need to have a different take, include your strong opinions, differentiating stances. I know that we've been saying this for a while, but it's really important now. Start making video. Add video to your SEO content. This is not only to add originality, but to increase UX. And I think you can just make a video directly about the blog post. If you have a person on there walking them through it, that really adds value. So you could also create original named frameworks to solve a problem. So like instead of top 10 tips for X and Y, could be like our brand name framework for this problem, and invent your own methodology. And you can create visual first content as well. So you can design the visuals first and then write content to support them. So like concept maps, workflows, flowcharts, quadrant maps, those kind of things. And Google can recognize image uniqueness. And then build your brand. So you need a brand to play in the SERP. We know that big brands win in SEO. You need it to show up in AI responses. This is what I wanted to say about the Kevin Indig research, is that he also found that the number one highest influencing factor or variable to show up in LLM responses was brand search volume. So how many people search for your brand? And you need to differentiate. All the SaaS companies, I'm sorry, but most of them look exactly the same. So they are exactly the same as well to some degree. So differentiate, build that brand. And you also need to look out for number one. So you need to look out for yourself because Google is certainly looking out for itself. So get to know your audience again. I'm not a brand expert, but there's a big gap here for a lot of companies on what you could be doing. We can help with brand content, but then I think to come up with your own differentiating position, you're going to have to do that work yourself, and it's really important work to be doing right now. So that leaves us with a little bit of time to chat, discuss. I would love to make this a conversation to see how people are doing. Thank you for sharing that. I put Q&A, but I really want it to just be a chat. If you want to get a consultation, I know a lot of people are concerned that the agencies they're working with aren't on top of all the changes that are happening. We review this frequently internally and try to make sure that we're on top of everything. So you can go ahead and scan this to get an audit of your website and see what's going on. So yeah, I would love to hear thoughts. How are people seeing this for them? Was anything here new? What are your thoughts on what I just went over? Yay, Amaya.
I've been seeing like higher conversion rates from AI traffic, to be honest. I mean, I think it's just because we're like as company, and I think that people uses AI to research tools. So it's bottom of the funnel traffic. And
yeah.
I've also noticed like longer keywords as you were mentioning. But I had a question because you were saying that Google is going to favor its products, of course. And what does include exactly? I mean, does it include Google My Business and which other products, for instance?
So it has a lot of different products. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but it's going to be, so a lot of the clicks in the AI mode, when you click to them, they don't actually take you to a link or a different page. They take you to another SERP. So it's another, basically another click into Google where it searches that again. So basically, the theory is that by sending you to another SERP, it's going to say, look how many people are clicking on Google, and it's going to be good for the investors. So it's taking you back to just Google pages. But it also has products like travel. It has its own e-commerce. It has a lot of different things. I don't think that it has anything in B2B SaaS yet per se, but it has so many different products, and it's just starting to push all of its own. There's a list of them somewhere in these articles. I'll just make a note right now to share it with you guys when I share the recording.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Amaya. Any other thoughts from anyone or questions? All right. Well, I guess we will leave it at that. I don't see anything in the chat. All of you guys will get the recording, and I will look up that data point as well, and I'll give you a copy of the slides so you can read more thoroughly into these data points. This is pretty hard to keep up with. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciated your time here. If you're signed up to my newsletter, I'll keep updating you guys about everything that I find as well, so we can keep learning on this path. Thank you so much for your time today, and I will see you next time. Bye.